Great to have you for our fun little podcast style interview. Except I guess it's not a podcast because we're doing videos via wig. So good to keep our spirits high during this time. I just wanted to get us started because I know your background because you're a student in the course, but I was hoping you could describe to others that might listen, what is the project that you are trying to get developed?
We, as Magpies, I'm a food trailer restaurant that goes to location and provides an experience as well as a theater, have been trying to create a location, a structure, or some sort of cornerstone to our community where people could come and experience, they can join and grow, they can get to know each other, or they can work together. And so as this project has been developing, we're actually now reaching for a structure that could be this cornerstone to the community, this kind of partnership hall per se.
Yeah, and what are kind of like the core features that you want in the building?
We want it to be a two-story, shout out to our roots, which would be Old Town Valdez and Vision. So as far as that, it would be like a colonial style building. And inside this building, a tourist, visitor, entrepreneur, professional could come into the main floor. And during a summer season, they would experience a sort of a open format floor plan where there's this magical theater in the center, and you can enjoy a story about our community and how we've grown and developed in the ups and downs that Valdez has experienced uniquely. And then if the show isn't going on, you have this beautiful kind of Victorian feel space where there's a cafe, where there's silent places you can actually get work done while you're on this adventure vacation, but you still actually have to be a professional. And you can schedule meetings, and there would be meeting space. Upstairs, we're hoping that we can get a tenant that kind of jives with our mission, and that we could be just this kind of pod of growth and development.
Right. So the idea is you're actually structured as a for-profit business, which I say loosely, right? Like we hope for profit. Yeah. And so that limits some of your grant opportunities. So you're considering other partnerships to open up doors of other grants that you could pursue. Could you talk about how you've been thinking about partnership structure?
So I guess there's two ways you can go with this. You can go with the capital improvements, one group of people owning the structure, and then you have anchor tenants that buy in a lease basically, and they're long-term tenants, and that helps develop the traditional funding and people investing into this project. And then the other route would be condominium sales. So one person owns one floor of the building, and one group owns the other, and then somebody owns the property. So it's kind of two different pictures here that we're looking at, and just kind of overall trying to figure out the best funding direction.
Right. So you just submitted a grant a few weeks ago. Can you tell me about that?
So our community has had this grant called the Valdez Beautification Grant, and its mission is to try to spruce up our main streets, what they call a tier 1 area of the community, where a visitor would come in and be visually affected by what is there. And this grant traditionally has been funding like new signs, fixture siding, do some drastic permanent change, maybe some landscaping to your property, so that the visual of Valdez is brought to a better standard. And it says it funds architectural. And so what we've done here with this is we've reached out to our city to hop on board and partner with us in the sense of granting us this seed money to actually hire an architect to build the vision. And that will give us what we need to take to investors and other grants to build off of, showing we have this investment out of our community. This is the vision we have from the professional. It'll give us the numbers we need. Yeah, so when that grant came up, we went ahead and jumped on it, even though it was a little bit of a rush to deadline. But it will help us, give us the tools we need to reach out for other grants.
Right. Yep. So the idea is you're trying to get so concept drawings developed by an architect, which will give you at least a more accurate budget, so you know what the building will cost.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So what did you learn from that? Was your first grant application. So what would you say were some of the biggest takeaways from preparing that?
I think after watching your coursework, it had registered in the early classes, okay, take their rubric and restate it how they have it. But until actually doing it, I kind of felt intimidated and lost at the original format of the grant, because I felt like the application was very informal. I could have done it in pen kind of application, but the way your course took it and said, use their skeleton and fill it in from their skeleton. I think that was a huge stepping stone for me to go from that sort of informal pen application to a more formal, focused, firmly stated with their skeleton.
Yeah, you did a great job, and I'll explain that a little bit more because I think sometimes people will run into that with these smaller grants. It was literally a paper application and with 2 or 3 lines, which is not nearly enough to actually write a response. Very, very old school. And so what you did was you took the questions that they asked, put that into a separate Word doc, wrote out your response as long as it needed to be, which was 2 to 3 to 4 paragraphs. And so structurally it had all the same questions, but you actually had more room to put some context. And then you made it aesthetically look like the application, which I thought was good, so that it's not so off, so rogue that it's offensive or whatever. So yeah, I thought you did a great job with that. How about what was the most unexpected challenging part of that application?
Asking for investors to jump on board. I was at a point in my project where I knew we were going to be talking about this. I knew that part of the budget was coming up, but I did not expect that within a 2-week period, I would go from being just, I need a new lease landlord, to, hey, what do you guys think about, this is basically a proposal. This is basically a proposal for some sort of a partnership for development of your property. So understanding at such an early stage in a capital improvements project, how to start asking these questions, that was definitely the most surprising and the most difficult conversation to have.
Yeah, but you did a great job. They seem to be on board. You got your letter of support from them, right? Just a week or two ago. So that's good. I mean, this was more or less a dream 6 weeks ago, and now it's getting a lot of good structure to it. Did you find the planning toolkit that we provide helpful for showing you how to think like a funder? Was that useful in your journey?
The planning toolkit was extremely helpful. It was something to draw from. I don't know that I feel like my planning toolkit is done, and maybe that's just a new student thing where you never feel it's quite done. So in the sense that I feel like I completed mine and then I was able to pull from it for my grant? No, I don't feel that put together.
That's all right. They're a journey. They're never done, really. Until your building's built, they're always evolving, right?
It's an old. You're right. And even I'm finding 13 years into business, I'm reaching back to my very first business plan right now. So I look forward to seeing in a decade what this toolkit brings to me with wherever we're at in our next development.
So you've started researching grant funding that could complement this project. Can you talk about how that process is going and what you've perhaps found so far?
It's been interesting being a for-profit and having to wrap my mind around, don't throw it out just because it's for a nonprofit. I'm finding funding for some capital improvements. There's lots of arts, theater, and culture grants that sound helpful, and that can definitely help somehow along the way. There are actually a handful of capital improvement theater projects. So that's been helpful. Community development grants, that actually came to me the other day. So I was gonna add that to my list of keywords and see if that changes things a bit. But I was able to take about 105 grants and get it down to 15.
That's fabulous. That's a great spot to be in. And I don't see you getting down to a final list anyway until you know who your partners are locked down.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at now. The only grant that actually applied and that I felt like I could reach out to was this city grant, because it directly relates to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So from that, I'm hoping we can answer some questions and get some people on board, and then be able to clean up that list and really be able to answer some of these grant questions.
Yep, absolutely. No, it's a good process. I mean, you're moving right along. I guess, what would you want other aspiring grant writers to know? People that have maybe were in your shoes 2 months ago, that you have a dream and a vision and trying to figure out, should I jump on this or not?
So I would have to say, you have said it many times, take that dream and put it on paper, give it some traction. And I think those words resonate in all the calls with me, because we as dreamers and growers and entrepreneurs and the people that run all the nonprofits of our world, we have a lot of ideas. And so just to take one of them and put it on paper, it gets something moving that then attracts more to you and gives it more capability. So there's something to be said about that dream written on a bar napkin.
Mm-hmm. So true.
So if you're overwhelmed, if you're daunted, really just write it down and give it a skeleton. I love the skeleton. I forgot about that.
Yes, it's so true. So what do you have next that you're looking towards? Like, what's your next milestone that you want to reach?
That's a hard question right now. I will have to admit, COVID-19, homeschooling in my lap.
Yeah.
I'm a business owner that has to decide if we're operating in May. I'm a theater producer that has to be able to tell my crew, are we going to be going into rehearsals in May? I just had those meetings last night. So you asked me what I want to achieve next. I can reach out and study and ask my community, is this something we need? Is this something we want to see happen together? And I think those questions are going to be about all I can manage in the next 3 months.
Yeah, completely.
I hope what I see next is an approval of funding.
An approval of funding, and hopefully some continued conversations with the partners, because I feel like that's your most important next piece.
Yeah, I've been a sole ownership entrepreneur for 12 years, and I tried to partner 12 years ago, and I didn't have the knowledge on how to partner. So this is really exciting. And like I said, for profit by myself for 12 years, you can't do it alone.
Totally.
Great things don't happen alone. If you look at what's been most fun about this project, it's encouraging me to understand more of the founders of Valdez. And you don't survive here alone, and it takes all of us to work together. And so, yeah, these partnership conversations are exciting. Absolutely. Because it'll be a team accomplishment, and I look forward to being part of a team.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of writing things down, I don't think you've got to this section yet, but in module 4, we have a sample partnership agreement. Yes, and that might be a fun thing to bring to the next time you meet with some of your partners is, hey, what would you like to do? What can we do? And starting to actually put those ideas down on paper.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Well, this is great. Is there anything else you would want, aspiring grant writers to know?
When you fall off your horse, just get up, keep going, take a day off, take a week off, but come back to it.
And put a wig on so you don't take yourself too seriously.
Go back to the broke era. Things were much harder back then. The plague was much scarier. This is nothing.
Exactly. If we smile, it helps. Gosh, that's totally cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for an amazing interview. I'm sure a lot of people are going to find a lot of inspiration in this.
Thank you. Good luck, unicorns.